Hi everyone. Last week I completed my 7th marathon in Frankfurt. Most people think I'm nuts, but there are actually several good reasons why I run marathons. Apart from needing to have a goal to keep me motivated to run regularly, keep fit and stay healthy, preparing for a marathon and running the race is a great way to learn how to overcome. It's easy to go for a run. Okay, so it's relatively easy to go for a run when the weather is nice and you feel like it. But when you train for a marathon, you have to do your sessions whatever the weather and whether you like it or not. The greatest challenge in a marathon is the distance. It's just over 42 kilometers. And when you get to the last 10 kilometers or so, you're in pain, you're exhausted, and your mind is screaming at you to stop. It's at that point that you need to overcome if you are to finish the race. And if you haven't trained regularly to overcome with the shorter training sessions, you will struggle to overcome in the long distance. Let's take a look at how this applies to the spiritual race we're running and how Jesus wants us to overcome so that we will persevere to the end. In the book of Revelation, Jesus makes it clear in each of his letters to the 7 churches that he will reward those who overcome. His expectation is that his people should overcome just as he did. The Greek word that's translated overcome comes from the root word Nike or Nike, and it means victory. In other words, Jesus wants us to walk in victory and learn to overcome so that we will finish the race and win the prize. But why is it that so many believers struggle to live in victory? I believe there are 2 problems. The first is that many of us don't understand that we need to overcome in the shorter distances if we are to overcome in the long distance. And the second is that although Jesus has set us free to be victors, we can still behave as though we are victims. The difference between a victim and a victor is this. A victim is someone who's powerless and is the product of what happens to them. A victor, on the other hand, is someone who's powerful and chooses to live in the freedom and truth of God. So for example, when a child grows up in an abusive home and is constantly told that they are not good enough, not clever enough or ugly, eventually they will believe what is said about them and they become what they have been conditioned to believe about themselves. They become victims who are powerless and become the product of whatever happens to them. Most of us wouldn't regard ourselves as victims, but the reality in life is that we can still behave as victims when we allow circumstances, people, society, the media, sickness, and even the weather to determine and even control what we think, feel, and do. So for example, if someone offends you or says something to you that is hard to swallow, you can either allow those words to control what you then think about or feel or even do and take on the attitude of a victim. Or you can recognize what's going on and be powerful by choosing to be led by the Holy Spirit and walking in God's freedom and truth. It's as we learn to overcome in the small challenges that we learn to be overcomers in the long run. Whenever we forgive others, resist temptation, show mercy, or follow God's ways rather than the ways of the world, or choose to love, we are training ourselves to overcome so that we will be overcomers to the end. Jesus has gone through the door to victory for us, so that as we have faith in him, we too can go through it and overcome. God has set us free from being powerless and becoming the product of whatever happens to us. We are no longer victims, but victors, empowered by the Spirit of the overcomer to choose to walk in God's freedom and truth. Let's go through the door to victory and become the overcomers Jesus expects us and empowers us to be. God bless you.